Hi everybody, welcome to Source Inspired Speaking. I'm Nathan. Today, Spirit's going to talk about different levels of consciousness, about how we can explore them, about how accessing them can change our lives, and how to begin moving away from the levels that aren't serving us anymore. How to step into that new vibration of creation, of power, of light, connecting to different aspects of God that we haven't done before. So please, sit back, remove yourself from any distractions, listen to these words, and I'll see you after the message. Hello. Thank you for joining us. Today we wish to explore the concept of consciousness a little bit more with you. Because as we have said in the past, there are many levels of consciousness that exist within God and the divine. And your experience is directly based upon which levels of consciousness you choose to access. Now, when you are in the human form, there are a few layers of consciousness that are readily available to you. Of course, there is the I experience of the human being. There is the level of consciousness that exists within the cells of your body. There is the level of consciousness that exists within groups that you partake in, family, friends, work. There is the human level of consciousness from which many of you draw your thought vibrations from. There is also the level of consciousness of those who have crossed over, those who are in spirit, who are still maintaining a very human level of consciousness. This is a form of mediumship, as you would call it. It's also where a lot of your inspiration comes from. There is the earth level of consciousness that encompasses all those who live upon the earth and the earth itself. And then less likely, but some still have access to levels of consciousness of life that lives beyond earth, that is very similar in vibration to that of human consciousness. Or planets that have a vibration very similar to the earth. But then there is a level of consciousness of those beings that exist in a different vibrational plane, that choose to come into the human level of consciousness, or not quite into the human level, but just beyond it, to a level very similar to your family members in spirit who have recently crossed over, that exist very close to human level, that you can meet by raising your vibration to match. And that is basically what is happening here with Nathan when he channels. It's a combination of those who have experienced the human level of consciousness that choose to come into it, and Nathan vibrating at a level slightly beyond human consciousness that allows some higher thoughts to come in. When we say higher, we don't mean better. There is no such thing as judgment in the spiritual world, because everything is connected. It's all expressions of the same source. So higher and lower doesn't mean better or worse. So these are the basic levels of consciousness that you have access to. Some may have glimpses of unity, which is the highest, most connected vibration that individuals can experience. It's not quite the level of oneness of God, of everything, that some people like to think, but it's very close. The closest that you can experience here and still come back to exist on a human level. But these glimpses are fleeting, often, because you're not meant to stay there in this human form. Now, why is it important for us to tell you the levels of consciousness that you can access? Well, very simply, if you choose to change your experience, change where you vibrate. If the well is poisoned, don't keep drinking from the same well. Which means if your experiences are not that which you desire, if you wish for something greater, some form of change to come into your life, perhaps the level of consciousness you are drawing your thoughts from just isn't one that is cohesive with these dreams that you hold. So what's the easiest way to change your level of consciousness? Well, of course, the easiest way is to change which access you have to human levels of consciousness. Because within that human level are all the group dynamics that you also access, family, friends. And you live in an amazing time where communication is much easier. So if you find that you are experiencing levels of consciousness that bring you thoughts that keeping you in the same place, they're not allowing you to grow and change, perhaps it's related to the friends or family vibration that you are connected to. Perhaps it's the work environment and those people. And just by accessing others who think on a different level of consciousness, watching videos on YouTube, going to groups, perhaps religious groups, churches, whatever shifts your energy, find those people, be around them, feel what their energy is like. Because as you do so, you are shifting where you are connecting, which parts of humanity you are connecting to, and thus which access you have to your infinite creator power. See, if those who access groups, who are part of groups that show violence, are going to have more access to violent thoughts. Those who are parts of groups that are problem solvers, thinkers, creators, they'll find they have more access to the answers they seek. This is because you are more likely to draw thoughts from the level of consciousness that you practice. And in any moment, you have access to these other layers of consciousness. But to have a real change in your life, you need to keep accessing different levels of consciousness. Now, with some people, they can get to a point where they get so low that they reach out, that they extend well beyond where they normally are, and they grasp onto a thought or vibration that is so profound it completely shifts where they choose to be. And this is possible, but we also say that you don't need to wait for that you have the very simple power of shifting where you draw your creative energy, which parts of God you are accessing. It's such a simple thought, and yet so many people don't do it. They stay in the same toxic relationships. They stay around the same people that bring them down. They choose not to take the chance to explore something new. But there's so much of God you are not experiencing if you just stay in that same level of consciousness. There's so much opportunity out there for each one of you. And as you grow and shift the levels of consciousness that you connect to, when you begin to access new parts of the human level of consciousness, you'll also find that by getting out of that pattern, you start to have access to these other levels as well. It's not that they weren't there before, but you weren't noticing them. But once you place yourself in a situation where you are noticing new vibrations, new levels of consciousness by changing the environment around you, you'll start to get glimpses of those other groups. It might be a flash of information of something that humanity is calling for, which if you grasp onto, you could change your whole planet. It might be a calling from Spirit just as this, that says, receive this information, share it with others, change lives. It might be the guidance from a family member who is no longer experiencing the physical, that gives you just the push you need to get through your issues, your problems. It might be a higher divine power that gives you guidance, or shows you love, or shows you experiences that you've never dreamed of. You see, the people who change this world are the ones who do not static, that don't try to create the same experience over and over again. They take chances because they have faith. They have faith that they are connected to God, that everything will work out, that everything is in divine and perfect order, and that they understand that if something does not go as they wish in the beginning, if they stick with it, they will receive the inspiration that guides them towards success. We've said in the past, failure is just quitting too soon. Failure is losing faith in God and the divine to show you exactly where you need to go next. And we say that is the same thing with yourself. Because really, when you change the levels of consciousness that you access, you are changing that belief vibration, its connections, where you are pulling from. And as you change those connections here in this physical plane, it changes everything. And that's why prayer can be a very powerful way of changing. But prayer done in the right way. Because true prayer isn't so much about asking God to come down to your level. It's about raising yourself to that higher level of consciousness. of asking God not to solve problems for you, but to show you the solution, show you the path. God, I'm ready to change. Here I am, understanding that there is new possibilities, having faith that you can bring me through, that you can show me a new path. And that faith and that hope of knowing that you can be different, that you can change, already takes you out of those stuck layers. It moves you slightly beyond it. And that's where your prayers can be answered. Your prayers aren't answered by hiding in a hole, asking God to come to you. Your prayers are answered by standing up, walking out of that prison you've created, and saying, God, here I am, I have faith, show me the way. There's so much opportunity waiting for each one of you if you just step beyond the boundaries that you've created. You stop holding on so rigidly to who you think you are, and you allow yourself to experience the fullness of this creation that you walk among. The energies that flow around you are so magnificent and powerful, and the levels of consciousness that exist, they're not stacked. You don't have to travel through one to get to another. They're all existing together. We move through them all the time, but so often we just don't realize it because we filter it out. And that's what this is. It's changing your filter, changing your beliefs of who you are, so that you stop filtering out the things that can bring you that which you desire, and you start to filter out the thoughts that say you can't do it. They exist at different levels of human consciousness, different layers. They're very different patterns of energy. And because you are one with God, that there is no separation, because of that you have access to all of it. But you have to make that choice. So we ask you now to go back after this message and think about where you've been pulling your thought vibrations from. What world have you created? Which groups are you a part of that are not helping you? Which thought patterns you have that are destructive, and see where they come from. If you're not sure, go into that form of prayer and say, God, I'm ready, show me the answers. God, I know that you and I are one, that I have access to all that you've created, and here I stand ready to experience something new within your glory and your power and your might. And then when the answers come, be brave enough to make that change. And we promise you, if you stick with it, if you stay open to receive, your whole reality shifts. Because your reality is created through your consciousness, through the connections that your belief vibration pulls from. So access something greater. Bring yourself to that place of joy and power and beauty, and see everything this world has waiting. And then share that with others, so that you can become a beacon of truth when so many are stuck in a mirage of fear and imprisonment. By stepping into your power, you become the key to others experiencing eternal life through consciousness, through shifting, through connecting, through seeing the truth. Because when there is truth, there is no fear. We thank you all for joining us, and we love you always. So it's very interesting to me that this message was about reaching different levels of consciousness, because the energy that was channeling through me was a little bit different than normal. Not better or worse, it was just a different vibration. And I know that I'm always connecting to different energies within consciousness when I channel. But this one was more, it felt different to me. And so it's amazing that they would connect me to a different level of consciousness in this message about connecting to different levels of consciousness. But just knowing that you have that power within God to move through reality, to draw from different sources of creation, because we are all one, everything is connected. God exists within you. So you can connect to all that God's created. Some easier than others, but first just start by making the simple changes. Get away from toxic groups. Shift away from toxic people. Find your family. Find your tribe. Find the ones that resonate on a level not only similar to you, but where you want to be. Those are the people you need to be around. If you want to be someone that's successful in money, be around successful people. If you want to be around people who have amazing relationship, be around them. That will translate to your life. If you want to be around creative people, artists, musicians, that's what you want to explore yourself, be around them. Allow your experience in the physical to help shift the level of consciousness that you connect to. Because that's the amazing thing. It's a system. It all works together. And so what Spirit was saying is, to change your life, you need to connect to these other levels of consciousness. But the easiest way to do that is to change small things within your life that you know are connecting you to the levels of consciousness that aren't serving you. Take action within your life to connect to different parts of God that will then help you create something new in your life. It's pretty amazing when you think about it. But it starts by making that change. And you're already ready for it, because just by watching this video, you're connecting to a different level of consciousness. In the same way I was, it's really no different. When you're receiving this message, you're connecting to that same level of consciousness. Now the question is, do you keep reaching out? Do you keep connecting? Do you keep changing your life so that this becomes a normal part of it? Not just watching these videos, but connecting to God in different ways. Because if you can do that, promise you, everything changes. I know it's changing for me. And if it works for me, it works for you, because we are one and the same. So thank you all for joining me. If you like what you heard, please subscribe. Hit the bell to be notified of all my upcoming messages. If you could love that like button for me, it really helps me out. And if anything helps you in your life, please share it with others. Please make a comment below so we can see how people are changing. You know, what are you getting out of these messages that's helping you to shift and change? And then share that. Because as we create a community of change, we all begin to access consciousness on different levels, and we all become beautiful creators that are exploring God in new ways and helping each other to take that next step. So again, thanks for being here. I love you all, and I'll see you next time. Bye.